The auction paddle felt like a weapon in Katherine Thompson's hand, as she raised it one final time, her heart hammering against her ribs like it wanted to escape. The auctioneer's gavel came down with a crack that echoed through the ballroom, and suddenly she owned a painting she couldn't afford and didn't particularly want. All because her boss had insisted someone from the marketing firm needed to show face at this charity event. "Congratulations on your purchase." The voice came from her right, deep and smooth like expensive whiskey. Katherine turned to find a man watching her with eyes so dark they were nearly black, his suit tailored in that way that screamed money without trying. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of strong jaw and confident posture that belonged in cologne advertisements. "That's a beautiful piece." "It's hideous," Katherine said before she could stop herself, then winced. "I mean, it's very generous of me to support the arts." His laugh was genuine, catching her off guard. "Most people at these things pretend to love everything. I appreciate the honesty. Most people at these things can probably afford to be here." Katherine grabbed a champagne flute from a passing waiter, needing something to do with her hands. "I just spent 3 months rent on a canvas that looks like someone sneezed paint onto it." "Then why bid?" "Because my boss is trying to schmooze potential clients and couldn't be bothered to show up himself." She took a sip of champagne, grimacing at how dry it was. "I'm Katherine, by the way. Professional stand-in and apparently terrible art collector. Nathan Reeves." He extended his hand, and when she shook it, his grip was firm and warm. "And for what it's worth, I think that painting is hideous too." Katherine laughed despite herself. "Great, so I just bought something that even rich people think is ugly." "I didn't say I was rich." "Your watch costs more than my car," Katherine pointed out, nodding at the Patek Philippe on his wrist. "And your shoes are handmade Italian leather." "Either you're rich or you're really bad with money." Nathan's smile widened. "Sharp eye. What do you do at this marketing firm of yours?" "Copywriting, mostly. I make products sound better than they actually are." Katherine set down her champagne glass. "What about you?" "Let me guess, finance." "Close. I run a shipping company." "Exciting." "About as exciting as it sounds," Nathan agreed. "Lots of logistics, spreadsheets, and making sure containers get from point A to point B without ending up in the ocean." They talked through dinner, their table conversation flowing easier than Katherine expected. Nathan was funny without trying too hard, asked questions that suggested he actually cared about the answers, and didn't once check his phone. When he told a story about a shipping mishap involving 10,000 rubber ducks, Katherine laughed so hard she snorted champagne. "Oh God, that was attractive," she said, mortified. "It was real," Nathan said, and something in his tone made her look up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read, intense but not uncomfortable. "I like real." The charity auction continued around them, but Katherine found herself barely noticing. Nathan had a way of making the rest of the room fade into background noise, his attention so focused it felt like a physical thing. When he asked about her family, she found herself telling him about her sister's upcoming wedding, how she was dreading being the only single bridesmaid. "Not seeing anyone?" Nathan asked, casual but curious. "Not successfully," Katherine admitted. "My last relationship ended when I found out he'd been telling people I was his roommate, not his girlfriend. Apparently commitment wasn't his thing. His loss. You have to say that, it's polite." "I don't have to say anything." Nathan leaned back in his chair, studying her. "But I mean it. Anyone who'd hide you is an idiot." Heat crept up Katherine's neck. "What about you? I'm sure you have someone waiting at home." "No one waiting anywhere." Nathan's expression flickered with something that might have been old pain, there and gone so quickly Katherine almost missed it. "I was engaged once." She said yes to the ring but no to the reality. What reality? That relationships take work. That love isn't just the easy parts. He rotated his water glass, ice clinking against crystal. She wanted the fairy tale. When she realized I was just a person, she found someone else who still looked like Prince Charming. Katherine wanted to say something comforting, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she said, "I don't believe in soulmates." Nathan's eyebrows rose. "That's refreshingly cynical, not cynical. Realistic." Katherine traced the rim of her plate with one finger. "People talk about finding their other half like we're all walking around incomplete. But I think that's dangerous. You can't expect another person to fix what's missing in yourself. So you don't believe in true love." "I believe in choosing someone and working at it," Katherine said firmly. "I believe in partnership and respect and showing up even when it's hard. But destiny, soulmates, that's just a convenient excuse for when things fall apart. Oh, they weren't my soulmate after all, as if love is something that just happens to you instead of something you build." Nathan was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "That's actually the most romantic thing I've heard all night." "How is that romantic?" "Because it means love is a choice," Nathan said simply. "It means when someone stays, they're staying because they want to, not because some cosmic force is making them. That's more powerful than destiny." Katherine stared at him, something in her chest tightening in a way that wasn't entirely unpleasant. "I didn't expect you to agree with me. I didn't expect to meet someone who'd say it out loud." Nathan glanced at his watch and frowned. "I have an early morning meeting, unfortunately. But I'd like to see you again if you're interested." "Are you asking me on a date?" "I'm asking if I can take you to dinner. Somewhere without overpriced art and rubber chicken." Katherine should have said no. She barely knew this man, and she'd learned the hard way that chemistry at a charity event didn't always translate to real compatibility. But there was something about Nathan that made her want to take the risk, to see if this strange connection was real or just champagne and good lighting. "Okay," she heard herself say, "but I'm picking the restaurant. No fancy places where the portions are tiny and the menu is in French." Nathan's smile was worth the leap of faith. "Deal." They exchanged numbers, and when Nathan walked her to the valet, he didn't try to kiss her. He just squeezed her hand once, a promise of something that might become more, and Katherine felt it all the way to her toes. The restaurant Katherine chose was a hole-in-the-wall Italian place in her neighborhood, the kind where the owner knew the regulars by name, and the garlic bread came out before you even ordered. Nathan showed up in jeans and a casual button-down, looking somehow better than he had in his expensive suit. "This is perfect," he said, sliding into the booth across from her. "I was worried you'd test me with something trendy." "I hate trendy," Katherine admitted. "Give me good food and comfortable chairs over ambience any day." They ordered the lasagna because the owner, Marco, insisted it was the best in the city, and Katherine wasn't about to argue. While they waited, Nathan asked about her writing, and Katherine found herself telling him about the novel she'd been working on for 3 years, the one she was too scared to let anyone read. "What's it about?" Nathan asked. "A woman who steals back art that was looted during wars," Katherine said. "She's trying to return pieces to their rightful owners, but she keeps running into this investigator who thinks she's just a thief. And do they fall in love, eventually? But it takes a while. They both have trust issues." Nathan grinned. "So it's autobiographical." "Rude," Katherine said, but she was smiling. "What about you? Any secret hobbies?" "I restore old motorcycles," Nathan admitted. "I have a garage full of them. Spend most weekends covered in grease and trying to figure out why something won't start." Katherine tried to picture Nathan in a garage, tools in hand, and found the image far too appealing. "That's unexpectedly cool." "My ex hated it. said it was a waste of time and money. Your ex sounds exhausting. She was. Nathan's expression darkened slightly. She wanted someone who could give her a specific kind of life, galas and vacation homes and being seen at the right places. When I didn't perform the way she wanted, she left. And you're not bitter about it. I was, Nathan said honestly. For a long time I was angry, felt like I'd been auditioning for a role instead of being in a relationship. But eventually I realized she did me a favor. Better to know before the wedding than after. The lasagna arrived, steaming and perfect, and they ate while Katherine told him about her sister's bridezilla behavior and how the wedding planning had consumed their mother's entire personality. Nathan listened like he actually cared, asked follow-up questions, and didn't try to fix anything. "When's the wedding?" he asked. 2 months. June ceremony, outdoor venue, the works. Katherine stabbed at her lasagna with more force than necessary. "I'm happy for her, I really am. But everyone keeps asking when I'm going to settle down, like being single at 28 is some kind of failure. For what it's worth, I'm 33 and single. We can be failures together." Katherine looked up at him, at the warmth in his dark eyes and the half-smile on his lips, and felt something shift in her chest. This was dangerous territory, this feeling like maybe she'd found someone who understood. She'd been here before, let herself hope, and ended up hurt. But Nathan felt different somehow, steadier. "Tell me something real," she said suddenly. "Something you don't usually share." Nathan set down his fork, considering. "I'm scared my business is going to consume me the way it consumed my father. He built the company from nothing, worked himself into an early grave, and barely knew me. I'm trying to do it differently, but some days I look at my schedule and realize I'm following the same pattern. What would doing it differently look like? Having a life outside of work. Spending time on things that matter." Nathan met her eyes. "Being able to take a beautiful woman to dinner on a Tuesday without checking my email every 5 minutes. You haven't checked your phone once," Katherine observed. "I know. It's driving my assistant crazy." They split the tiramisu and argued about movies, discovering they both loved action films and hated romantic comedies where the conflict was based on someone not having a simple conversation. When Nathan walked her to her car, he did kiss her this time, soft and careful and entirely too brief. "I want to see you again," he said against her lips. "Tomorrow." Too eager. "I was thinking the same thing," Katherine admitted. Nathan kissed her again, deeper this time, his hand cupping the back of her neck. When they broke apart, Katherine's heart was racing. "Tomorrow," Nathan confirmed. "I'll pick you up at 7. Over the next few weeks, tomorrow became every day. Nathan would show up at her apartment with coffee before work, or they'd meet for lunch in the park near her office. He took her to his garage and let her try her hand at sanding down a motorcycle tank, laughing when she got more rust on herself than the rag. She brought him to her favorite bookstore, and they spent hours browsing, building stacks of recommendations for each other. Katherine felt herself falling, that dizzy rush of early love that made everything feel sharper and brighter. Nathan was thoughtful in ways she didn't expect, remembering that she took her coffee with oat milk and that she hated talking before 9 in the morning. He showed up when he said he would, called when he was running late, and never once made her feel like she was asking for too much. But there was something he wasn't telling her. She could feel it in the way he'd deflect certain questions about work, the careful way he talked about his schedule. Katherine told herself it didn't matter, that everyone deserved privacy, but doubt crept in during the quiet moments. Her last boyfriend had hidden her. What if Nathan was hiding something worse? "You're being paranoid," her best friend Melissa said over drinks one evening. "Not every guy is a liar." "But some are," Katherine argued. "And Nathan is weirdly secretive about his work. He says he runs a shipping company, but he won't talk about it. What if he's in debt? What if it's all a front for something illegal? Or what if he just doesn't like talking about work because he's trying to focus on you? Melissa pointed out. Katherine, you've been burned before, I get it, but you can't let that stop you from trusting someone new. Katherine knew Melissa was right, but knowing something intellectually and feeling it were different things. That night when Nathan picked her up for dinner, she was quiet, her mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. What's wrong? Nathan asked as they sat at a Thai restaurant near the river. Nothing, Katherine. He reached across the table, taking her hand. Talk to me. Why won't you tell me about your work? The words came out sharper than she intended. Every time I ask about your company, you change the subject. Are you hiding something? Nathan's jaw tightened. I'm not hiding anything. I just don't think my job is interesting. That's not an answer. What do you want me to say? Nathan pulled his hand back, frustration bleeding into his voice. That I spend my days in meetings talking about freight routes and customs regulations. That's not exactly romantic date conversation. I want you to trust me enough to be real with me, Katherine said. I want to know about your life, even the boring parts. Otherwise, this feels like you're performing instead of actually letting me in. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm so used to people only caring about my company when they want something from me that I forget not everyone is like that. What do you mean? Reeves Global Shipping isn't just a company, Katherine. It's the largest privately owned shipping company in the Western Hemisphere. Nathan watched her face carefully. My father built it, and when he died, I took over. I have 40,000 employees and revenue in the billions. I'm not just some guy who makes sure containers don't fall off boats. Katherine stared at him, her mind struggling to catch up. You're a billionaire. Yes. And you didn't think to mention this. When? Nathan leaned forward, his voice intense. When we met, when you were being funny and real and didn't care about my watch or my last name. When you took me to your favorite Italian place and argued with me about movies. I liked being Nathan to you, not Nathan Reeves, the CEO. I liked that you saw me as a person. Katherine's head was spinning. She thought back to all their dates, the casual restaurants and simple activities. The charity auction. You were there because you donated, weren't you? Not just attending. I'm on the board of the foundation, Nathan admitted. That event was half my funding. Jesus. Katherine pressed her hands to her face. I told a billionaire that I spent 3 months' rent on that painting. I bought it back for you, Nathan said quietly. From the charity. I'm having it delivered to your apartment next week. You did what? You said you couldn't afford it. I fixed it. Nathan reached for her hand again, and this time she let him take it. Katherine, I know this is a lot, but nothing between us has been fake. I'm still the same person who spilled coffee on himself at the bookstore last week. I still can't cook anything more complicated than scrambled eggs, and I still think your laugh is the best sound I've ever heard. Katherine wanted to be angry that he'd kept this from her, but looking at Nathan's face, she saw only vulnerability. He was scared she'd see him differently now, scared the money would change things. And maybe it should have, but all Katherine felt was a weird sense of relief that this was the secret. Not another woman, not a criminal enterprise, just success he'd been afraid to share. I don't care about your money, she said finally, but I do care that you felt like you couldn't tell me. I wanted to tell you so many times, Nathan said, but every time I thought about it, I remembered my ex. How everything became about what I could provide instead of who I was. I couldn't stand the thought of you looking at me the way she did. I'm not her, Katherine said firmly. And if you'd actually been honest with me instead of assuming I'd react a certain way, we could have avoided this whole fight. Nathan's lips twitched. Are we fighting? I think so. I've never been in a fight where the other person buys me expensive art as an apology. Is it working? Katherine considered. A little. But next time, just talk to me. I can't read your mind, Nathan. If something is bothering you or if you're scared about something, tell me. That's how this works. That's how what works? Nathan asked carefully. Us. Katherine squeezed his hand. Whatever we're building here, it only works if we're honest with each other, even when it's hard. Something in Nathan's face softened. So there is an us. Don't act surprised. You've been at my apartment almost every day for a month. I wanted to make sure you knew it was official. Consider me informed, Katherine said, but she was smiling now. They finished dinner and walked along the river, Nathan's arm around her shoulders. He told her about the company, about the pressure of living up to his father's legacy, and the constant fear that one wrong decision could cost thousands of people their jobs. Katherine listened and asked questions, and slowly she began to understand why Nathan kept this part of himself separate. Being a CEO wasn't just a job for him. It was an identity he hadn't chosen but couldn't escape. You like it? She asked as they stopped to watch the city lights reflect on the water. Sometimes, Nathan admitted. I like solving problems, making the business run smoothly. But I hate the politics, the constant networking, people sucking up because they want access. My father thrived on that stuff, but I find it exhausting. So why do it? Because 40,000 families depend on this company for their livelihood, Nathan said simply. Because my father built something worth preserving, and because I'm good at it, even if I don't always love it. Katherine turned to face him, her hands on his chest. For the record, I think you're brave. Taking on something that big because it's the right thing to do, not because it makes you happy, that's admirable. I'm not sure it's brave or just stubborn. Can be both. She stood on her toes and kissed him, slow and sweet. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for not running away screaming. The night is young, Katherine teased, but she didn't run. If anything, knowing about Nathan's company made her understand him better. The way he valued their quiet time together, how he savored normal experiences like grocery shopping or watching terrible action movies on her couch. This was his escape from a life that demanded constant performance, and Katherine was determined to protect that space for him. The revelation changed things, but not in the ways Katherine feared. Nathan introduced her to his assistant, a sharp woman named Patricia who approved of Katherine immediately. Katherine met Nathan's younger sister, Grace, who hugged her and whispered that she hadn't seen Nathan this happy in years. They fell into a rhythm that felt natural, splitting time between his penthouse and her apartment, between fancy restaurants and takeout on the floor. Katherine's sister Amanda met Nathan when she ambushed them at brunch one Sunday, appearing at their table with their mother in tow. Katherine watched nervously as Nathan charmed them both, answering questions about his work without being pretentious and complimenting Amanda's wedding plans without being fake. He's wonderful, Katherine's mother said later, pulling her aside. Don't mess this up. That's your advice. Don't mess it up. You have a tendency to sabotage yourself when things get good, her mother said bluntly. This one is good, Katherine. Hold on to him. Katherine wanted to argue, but she knew her mother was right. She did have a habit of finding problems where none existed, of pulling away when things got too real. With Nathan, she was fighting that instinct, choosing to stay even when vulnerability felt terrifying. The real test came 2 months into their relationship, when Katherine's novel manuscript was rejected by the 5th agent she'd queried. She called Nathan crying, unable to articulate why this hurt so much when she'd known it was a long shot. He showed up at her apartment 20 minutes later with ice cream and tissues, pulling her onto the couch and just holding her while she fell apart. I'm being stupid, Katherine said, wiping her eyes. "It's just a book." "It's not just a book. It's 3 years of your work," Nathan said. "You're allowed to be upset. But I knew the odds. Most manuscripts get rejected. Doesn't make it hurt less." Nathan tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "What are you going to do now? Keep trying, I guess. Revise and send it out again." Katherine laughed bitterly. "Or give up and accept that I'm just a copywriter who writes about laundry detergent." "You're a writer who's figuring out her path," Nathan corrected. "And for what it's worth, I think your book is brilliant." "You have to say that. I don't have to say anything." Nathan tilted her chin up so she had to look at him. "I read it because I wanted to know more about what matters to you, and I stayed up all night because I couldn't put it down. You have talent, Katherine. Don't let a few rejection letters convince you otherwise." Katherine felt tears welling up again, but this time they were different. "How are you so good at this?" "At what?" "Knowing exactly what I need to hear." Nathan kissed her forehead. "Because I pay attention, because you matter to me." They spent the rest of the evening on the couch, Katherine's head in Nathan's lap while he played with her hair and told her stories about his father's early struggles building the company. How he'd been rejected by banks and investors, told his ideas would never work. But he'd kept pushing, kept believing, until eventually something clicked. "I'm not saying you're going to be a billionaire author," Nathan said. "But I am saying that persistence matters. The difference between people who make it and people who don't is often just refusing to quit." Katherine took his advice. She revised the manuscript, joined a writing group, and started querying again. Nathan supported her through every rejection and every small victory, celebrating when she got a request for a full manuscript and holding her when that agent ultimately passed. He never made her feel like her dream was less important than his empire. Never suggested she should give up and focus on something more practical. For her birthday, Nathan surprised her with a weekend trip to a mountain cabin, just the two of them and a stack of books by the fire. They hiked and cooked meals together and made love in a bed covered in soft blankets. The world narrowed down to just the two of them. On their last night, lying tangled together in the dark, Nathan said, "I love you." Katherine's breath caught. They'd been dancing around the words for weeks, the feeling obvious but unspoken. Hearing it out loud made it real in a way that was both thrilling and terrifying. "I love you too," she whispered back. "Even though you're a billionaire and I'm a struggling writer and this probably makes no sense on paper." "It makes perfect sense," Nathan said. "We choose each other. Remember, that's more powerful than destiny." Katherine smiled against his chest, remembering their conversation at the charity auction. She'd told him she didn't believe in soulmates, that love was a choice, and he'd agreed. Nothing had changed her mind about cosmic destiny, but Nathan had made her believe in something better, partnership, chosen every day with full awareness of what it required. "We're really doing this," she said softly, "the whole serious relationship thing. Is that okay? It's terrifying." "Good terrifying or bad terrifying?" Katherine tilted her head to look at him, at the way the firelight caught in his dark eyes. "The best kind of terrifying." The weeks after that weekend blurred together in the best possible way. Nathan had to travel for work more frequently as summer approached, and Katherine threw herself into her writing and her job. But they talked every night, long phone calls where they shared the mundane details of their days and made plans for when Nathan got back. The distance was hard, but it also proved something important. They could handle the real-world demands of a relationship, the boring logistics and scheduling conflicts. When Nathan returned from a 2-week trip to Asia, he showed up at Katherine's apartment at midnight, exhausted and jet-lagged but unwilling to wait until morning to see her. They fell into bed together, urgent and hungry, relearning each other's bodies. Afterwards, Katherine traced the line of his jaw and thought about how much her life had changed in just a few months. "What are you thinking?" Nathan asked, his voice rough with sleep. "That I'm happy," Katherine said simply. "I didn't expect to be this happy. Me neither." Nathan pulled her closer. "I was starting to think maybe I wasn't built for this. That work was going to be my whole life. And now I want balance. I want a life that includes you and us and all the messy, complicated human stuff that makes it worth it." Catherine's sister's wedding arrived in a flurry of white tulle and family drama. Katherine stood in her bridesmaid dress, watching Amanda glow with happiness, and felt genuinely thrilled for her. Nathan sat in the audience looking unfairly handsome in his suit, and when their eyes met during the ceremony, he winked. At the reception, Catherine's relatives descended on them with questions about their relationship and thinly veiled hints about when they'd be next. Nathan handled it with grace, deflecting nosiness with charm and keeping his hand on Catherine's back like an anchor. "Your family is intense," he said as they danced to some generic wedding song. "That's putting it mildly. Sorry about my aunt asking about your net worth. That was mortifying." "I've had worse." Nathan spun her, making her laugh. At least she was direct about it. "Still, my family is a lot." "They love you," Nathan said. "That's not a bad thing, and for the record I like them, even your aunt." Katherine rested her head against his chest, swaying to the music. "What about us? Where do you see this going?" "Forward," Nathan said simply. "I see us continuing to build something together. I see mornings with terrible coffee and evenings arguing about what to watch. I see meeting challenges as a team and celebrating victories together." "That's pretty specific. I've thought about it." Nathan's arms tightened around her. "I know it's only been a few months, but Katherine, I'm sure about you. I'm sure about us." Katherine pulled back to look at him, seeing only honesty in his face. "I'm sure too," she admitted. "It scares me how sure I am. Because you don't believe in soulmates. Because I do believe in choice and I'm choosing you. That feels like a bigger commitment somehow." Nathan kissed her there on the dance floor, in front of Catherine's entire extended family and half of her sister's husband's relatives. It was sweet and certain and a little bit scandalous given the venue, but Katherine didn't care. This was her person, not because fate decreed it, but because they'd both decided to show up and do the work. 3 months later, Katherine got the call. An agent wanted to represent her manuscript. She screamed so loud that her coworkers came running, thinking something was wrong. When she told Nathan, he insisted they celebrate, taking her to the fanciest restaurant in the city despite her protests. "This is too much," Katherine said, looking at the menu where nothing had a price listed. "I didn't even get a book deal yet." "But you're one step closer," Nathan said. "And you worked hard for this. Let me celebrate you." They toasted with champagne that cost more than Catherine's rent, and she told him about the agent's plans for submission to publishers. Nathan listened like it was the most important thing in the world, asking questions and offering suggestions when she worried about the next steps. "Whatever happens, I'm proud of you," he said over dessert. "You didn't give up, even when it was hard. That takes courage." "I had a good support system," Katherine said, reaching across the table for his hand. "I'm not sure I would have kept going without you believing in me." "You would have," Nathan said confidently, "but I'm glad I got to be part of it." The book deal came through in the fall, a modest advance but with a publisher Katherine respected. She signed the contract in Nathan's home office, him watching over her shoulder and kissing her when she finished. They celebrated with takeout and cheap wine, more meaningful than any fancy dinner because it was real. "I have something for you," Nathan said after they'd finished eating. He pulled out a small box and Catherine's heart stopped. "Nathan." "It's not what you think," he said quickly, opening the box to reveal a key. I want you to move in with me, or I can move into your place if you prefer, though it would be a tight fit. I just want us to stop pretending we don't spend every night together anyway." Katherine took the key, her hands shaking slightly. "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Nathan cupped her face. "I love you, Katherine. I love your weird reading habits and how you sing off-key in the shower. I love that you challenge me and support me and make me want to be better. I want to build a life with you." "I want that too," Katherine said, tears streaming down her face. "God, when did I become such a crier?" "When you let yourself feel things," Nathan said, wiping her tears with his thumbs. "When you stopped protecting yourself and started living." They moved Katherine's things into Nathan's penthouse over the next few weeks, blending their lives in concrete ways. Her books filled his shelves. Her quirky art balanced his minimalist aesthetic. And suddenly, the massive space felt like a home instead of just a showcase. Nathan cut back on travel, delegating more to his regional managers, and Katherine set up a writing space in the spare bedroom that overlooked the city. Life settled into a new rhythm, comfortable but never boring. They fought sometimes, usually about stupid things like whose turn it was to do dishes or Nathan's tendency to work too late. But they always talked through it, always came back to each other with apologies and renewed commitment to doing better. Katherine's book came out the following spring to modest but positive reviews. Nathan threw her a launch party, inviting everyone from her writing group to her former professors to her entire extended family. He stood in the back of the room during her reading, his eyes bright with pride, and Katherine thought about how far they'd come from that charity auction. "You did good," her agent said afterwards, clinking glasses with Katherine. "First book is always the hardest. The second one will be easier." "I haven't even started thinking about a second one," Katherine admitted. "You will. Writers always do." That night, Katherine and Nathan walked through the city, her hand in his. They passed the Thai restaurant where they'd had their first fight, the bookstore where he'd knocked over an entire display trying to reach a high shelf for her, the park where they'd had countless lunch dates. Each place held a memory, evidence of time invested and love cultivated. "Thank you," Katherine said as they stopped at a crosswalk. "For what? For being patient with me, for not giving up when I was scared and pulling away." Nathan squeezed her hand. "You're worth the patience." 6 months later, Nathan proposed for real. Not at a fancy restaurant or some grand public gesture, but in their apartment on a random Tuesday evening. Katherine was editing her second manuscript, wearing old sweatpants and one of Nathan's shirts, her hair in a messy bun. Nathan walked in from work, loosened his tie and said, "Marry me." Katherine looked up from her laptop. "What? Marry me?" Nathan repeated, pulling out a ring box. "I was going to plan something elaborate, but then I realized that's not us. We're Tuesday evenings and comfortable clothes and choosing each other in the mundane moments. So I'm asking now, when you're exactly who you are with no performance. Katherine Thompson, will you marry me?" Katherine's vision blurred with tears as she nodded. "Yes. God, yes." The ring was perfect, a simple band with a single stone that caught the light. Nathan slid it onto her finger and pulled her into his arms, and Katherine felt certainty settle in her bones. This was right. Not because of destiny or soulmates, but because they'd built something real together. Because they'd chosen each other over and over in big moments and small ones. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony overlooking the ocean, just family and close friends. Katherine wore a simple dress and carried wildflowers, and Nathan couldn't stop smiling. When they exchanged vows, Katherine promised to choose him every day, to do the work, to show up even when it was hard. Nathan promised the same, his voice steady and sure. "I still don't believe in soulmates," Katherine said during her vows, making the guests laugh. but I believe in us. I believe in the choice we're making and the life we're building. I believe in you, Nathan Reeves, and in the future we're creating together. I believe in you too, Nathan said, and I'm grateful every day that you took a chance on me. They kissed to applause, and Katherine felt joy bubble up in her chest. This was better than any fairy tale, better than cosmic destiny. This was real and earned and theirs. A year after the wedding, Katherine published her second book to even better reviews. Nathan cut his work hours down, promoting a new CEO while staying on as chairman, giving himself space to breathe. They talked about kids, about the future, about all the possibilities stretched out before them. You ever regret it? Katherine asked one evening as they cooked dinner together in their kitchen. Taking a chance on the cynical writer who didn't believe in soulmates. Nathan pulled her close, kissing her temple. Not once. You made me believe in something better than soulmates. You made me believe in choice and partnership and real love that doesn't rely on magic to survive. We really are disgustingly happy, aren't they? We, completely, Nathan agreed. And I wouldn't change a thing. Katherine smiled against his chest, breathing in the familiar scent of him. She'd told him at that charity auction that she didn't believe in soulmates, and that was still true. But Nathan had shown her something more powerful. That love built on conscious choice and daily commitment was stronger than any cosmic bond. They weren't destined to be together. They were together because they worked at it, because they showed up, because they kept choosing each other. And that, Katherine thought as Nathan spun her around the kitchen, laughing as their pasta threatened to boil over, was the most romantic thing of all. Their daughter was born 2 years after the wedding, a squalling bundle of dark hair and strong lungs. They named her Nora, and Nathan cried when he held her for the first time. Katherine watched him become a father with the same dedication he brought to everything else, but with a gentleness she'd rarely seen. He took paternity leave despite Patricia's protests, spending those early weeks learning to change diapers and walking the floor at 3 in the morning. "You're good at this," Katherine said one night, watching him rock Nora back to sleep. "I'm terrified," Nathan admitted, "but I love her so much it hurts." "That's how you know you're doing it right." They figured it out together, navigating parenthood the same way they'd navigated everything else. As a team, with honest communication and patience for mistakes. Nathan installed a changing table in his office at Reeves Global so Nora could visit, and Katherine wrote her third book in stolen moments during nap time. Their life was messier now, marked by spit-up stains and sleepless nights, but also richer. Katherine's books found a steady readership, and she signed a 3-book deal that felt like validation for all the rejection letters she'd endured. Nathan fully retired from day-to-day operations, consulting occasionally but mostly focusing on his family and the motorcycle restoration business he'd started as a creative outlet. They bought a house outside the city with space for Nora to run and room for the family they hoped to grow. On their 5th anniversary, they returned to the venue where they'd first met, attending another charity auction. Katherine wore a red dress, and Nathan couldn't keep his eyes off her, just like that first night. "Remember when you told me you didn't believe in soulmates?" Nathan asked as they danced. "I still don't," Katherine said, "but I believe in us. I believe in the choice we make every single day to keep building this life together. Even when I leave my socks on the floor, even then. Though I reserve the right to complain about it." Nathan laughed and pulled her closer. "Thank you for taking a chance on me, for seeing past the money and the title to the person underneath. Thank you for being patient while I learned to trust," Katherine replied, "for showing me that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real." They stayed on the dance floor long after the song ended, swaying together in their own world. Around them, Other couples mingled and the auction continued, but Katherine barely noticed. She was too busy being grateful for this life they'd created, for the man who'd made her believe in something better than destiny. Because in the end, Katherine had been right at that charity auction all those years ago. Love wasn't about finding your other half or waiting for cosmic forces to align. It was about two people choosing each other, again and again, through boring Tuesdays and exciting milestones and everything in between. It was about showing up and doing the work, even when it was hard. Nathan hadn't made Katherine believe in soulmates. He'd made her believe in something stronger, a love built on choice, sustained by effort, and made beautiful by its very humanity. And as they left the auction that night, hand in hand, Katherine knew that was the greatest romance of all.